Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News podcast. We are buzzing as always. It's a lovely day in Toronto. Super pumped to have my guest on the show today. And folks, we haven't done a deep dive on quantum in a while. And today we are about to get Q-pilled and we are going to take such a deep dive in the quantum hole. I can't wait for it. Today we have David Carvalho on the show today, founder of Naoris Protocol. He has 20 years of experience as an ethical hacker, and he was an advisor to nation states and critical infrastructures under NATO on cyber war, cyber-espionage, and cyber-terrorism, and has been an advisor to multi-billion-dollar global enterprises like Nokia, AT&T, and EA Games. He also created the first distributed and AI blockchain-based cybersecurity mesh solution and was also the former youngest global CISO in the EU. David, what an intro. One of the more wild intros we've done. And I feel like if you wanted to, you could probably hack my computer in 6 seconds while we're on this podcast.
Pleasure to be here, man. No, it's not that easy.
Good place to start here. Before we get into all the quantum stuff, give me your best hacking story. You must have had one or maybe two above all others. When someone asks you, when it's fireside chat time with David and someone says, hey, give me your best hacking story, what do you got for me?
Oh my God, man. That's a mega surprise. I was not prepared. My best hacking story. It's hard to say, but I'll tell you a fun one. Let's talk about my first virus. So this was 1996. There was, people were basically sharing games via diskettes, right? Floppy disks. And
the good old days.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. When connecting to the internet had a band, right? The soundtrack. Yeah. So I decided to call my piece of malware that was actually within a BAT file in MS-DOS. I decided to call it Sunday. Now, my background is Portuguese, so I'm from Portugal. I was kind of learning English at the time. My English wasn't very good. And what happened once you were infected by that thing, and so as you share the diskette that installed the game, it also installed the virus. And we did it just for fun, me and some friends. And it would tell you, like, you have been infected by Sunday, your hard drive is being formatted, and shows you the bar. And you're like, oh my God. And then you're like trying to press and turn off your computer. And every time you turn it on, it would show you that on Sunday. And that was just, for giggles, it actually didn't format your hard drive, but it showed you that before it booted into the OS. And every time you share the game, the people get it. Now, the fun part is that, of course, everybody would get like a heart attack. Oh my God, all my files. But because I was not very good at English, Sunday only executed on Saturdays.
Oh my, that's so good.
So you can imagine people's faces, confused faces, like, but it's not Sunday.
Yeah, what part of the world am I in right now?
So I even went to the trouble of, writing all the code that would work with leap years and all these things. But yeah. It didn't work on the right day.
That's so good. Well, what a way to start the show. Let's jump into quantum. For the listeners at home, I'll set the stage here. We've had a couple incredible guests on this year. I don't think we've had anyone on prior to 2024 or 2025, excuse me, but we've had some incredible guests on and in the quantum space. Q-Day refers to the day where quantum sort of takes over and our current encrypted systems and security systems and processes and procedures are nullified and are no longer safe, legit, and efficient. That day is going to come. We don't know when it's going to come, but there's a pretty darn good chance that day is going to come. Quantum computing, and again, just setting the stage here, it's the difference between regular bits, which we use right now, and qubits, which are millions times more efficient. And guys, none of us really knows what's going to happen over the next couple of years, except for the couple hundred folks on the planet like David, who actually are in the weeds and are building with quantum every single day. It's going to be wild. None of us knows what is going to happen. And this is why David is on the show today. So, David, to set the tone, before we get into Naoris Protocol, before we get into everything, give me your sort of quantum pill moment and just, if you could, a blanket sort of macro statement, a TLDR on the importance of quantum and why we need to get our ducks in a row before Q-Day happens.
Okay. So quantum technologies, there's two main quantum areas. There's quantum computing and quantum proof cryptography or quantum safe or post-quantum cryptography, which are all the same thing, which is basically cryptography that's resilient to quantum computers or that uses mathematical principles that they cannot work with. So quantum computers have the unique capability of being extremely good calculators that work in parallel, while computers that we have until now work in sequence. So that means that something that you would have, for you to break certain, for example, a key that would take like a septillion years on all the computing power on Earth, you can potentially do that with a quantum computer, okay, not too technically speaking, pretty much instantly, eventually or even now in some situations. Now, while you aren't going to be playing Need for Speed or running Outlook on a quantum computer anytime soon, they are really good at defeating all cryptography that we have made until now, which is all based on what we call elliptic curve based cryptography, or ECC, that powers pretty much everything. Like everything that protects, say, nuclear secrets, blockchain validators, consensus mechanisms, private and public keys for VPNs, for your wallets, for pretty much all the secrets that are valuable to protect in the world, your healthcare, your banking details, right? So on and so forth. So quantum is coming to all world's cryptography, just like the Cretaceous meteor has come for the dinosaurs. And there's absolutely nothing we can do post fact. So in other words, once the meteor hits, if you're not off planet, if you're not in a quantum planet,
You're toast.
out. You're gone.
Yeah.
Like there's not, it's game over. You can't go back and redo something, right? Now, a little bit about the Q pill and Q day pill. Many people ask all the time, like, is it coming soon? Is it going to be next month? Is it going to be the next 12 months? Is it going to be in the next 5 years? Well, what I can tell you is that it's an inevitability. And just like death is going to come for all of us, quantum is going to come for all cryptography. And it's going to defeat all cryptography. So it is going to be a survivability event for everything that is worth protecting or defending, right? So that means all pillars of society, militaries, nation states, financial mechanisms, the world economy, nuclear secrets, everything, right? So it doesn't matter if it is tomorrow or if it's in 6 months or a year. I would say it does, but it doesn't. And the reason for that is there's this thing called harvest now and decrypt later. That is big effort by countries and other actors that are basically stealing pretty much your data in an encrypted state that is traveling across the internet, your public keys, your any other cryptographic encrypted data, and they are storing it in vaults.
This is already happening?
Oh yeah, that's already happening. It's happening big time.
But public keys, not private keys, though.
It's irrelevant because you would be able to derive a private key from a public key with quantum.
Lovely. Sorry, keep going. Lovely. Great.
That's
great
the point,
news.
right? That's the point. That's the first thing that the asteroid will do. When it impacts, it's the wave of it's the shock wave, right? It's like, the thing is that everything that is blocking you from accessing something is a cryptographic difficulty. And quantum computers are capable of jumping this leap pretty much instantly, right? And there's, how can I say, innovations that are fundamental on the quantum computing space happening weekly, not yearly anymore. So it is not a theoretical thing. It's not something that, I have a paper that speaks about that. No, it's something that is factual, it's real, it's happening. There's quantum computers. And a lot of the difficulties of making them more efficient are being invested on, and lots of minds are being thrown into the problem. So that means that this is an engineering problem. It's not theoretical issue. So if it's an engineering problem, regardless of the size of the problem, just like, for example, putting a man on the moon was hard, finding solutions to make ever increasingly efficient quantum computers that will lead to some sort of quantum singularity or Q-day are also an engineering problem. So if you are like, say, the Chinese government, and Xi Jinping said that recently that this is our most strategic objective.
I saw that.
You would have access to, like, everything. You're investing more in this area than in your own nuclear arsenal. Then it tells you how strategic that is for you. Of course, it's not as shiny. I would say quantum is a lot more important right now for human survival and stability than AI is, than or actually anything else. AI is going to be based on quantum computing too, and anything that it creates of value should be protected by quantum means against quantum or quantum resistant cryptography. So why is Q-Day not so important? Because once your data is captured, and it has been captured, it is put on hard drive somewhere in cold storage, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. Like, the only way that it can be quantum resilient in the future when Q-Day comes and all the stuff is going to be unencrypted and accessed is for you to be quantum resilient now. So, because your data is being captured now. So it's a little bit like, do you remember like the Terminator movies?
Oh, yeah.
When the T-800 would come to the present so we could protect, the humans in the future. So it's pretty much the same. Like, for you to be quantum secure in the future, your future self,
the Terminator now.
You need to be quantum ready now, because your stuff is being captured now. So your actions of your present self are basically defining your future state in the future. Because, it sounds, almost like a movie, but it is a quantum thing. Like, the thing is, because you may not be quantum ready now because you're not adopting like quantum resilient cryptography and, things that make the backbone of your cryptography or your daily operations resilient in the future, then you are most definitely going to be vulnerable in the future because your data is already there. And your data, guess what happens? Like, nobody changes private keys. Companies don't change it. They're in the backbone of all databases, in the, so on and so forth. That is, the longer this process goes, the more data they're going to have access to. And of course, a threat actor that would have access to such capabilities, you wouldn't know. Like, in other words,
of course,
probably Q-Day, would be already happening for a long time.
It's going to
before
pop
you
out
actually
of
know that it's happening. It probably just looks like, oh, somebody stole some keys and somebody hacked something. But no, they probably had access to all the passwords. They probably had access to, because they could derive them all, or they could actually derive the key. Maybe they could derive the whole memory space of all possible Bitcoin keys, right? For example, right? Which are, how can you escape that? You can't. Like, the future doesn't belong to you if you're not quantum ready. So fortunately, there is quantum resilient cryptography or quantum safe cryptography or post-quantum cryptography, which is all the same thing, that uses completely different mathematical models, code models, that quantum computers have a very hard time dealing with. Unfortunately, the models that we have been using, and of course, for example, all blockchains and everything that's important in the world is using this technology from like the 90s. But the rest of the world, to protect itself, to create resilience. But the rest of the world is not stopping. Technology is continuing to move, right? Unfortunately, this is the backbone of everything that has value, from, military systems to government technology to the whole global economy. And it is at grave risk, just like the dinosaurs were from that meteor in the late Cretaceous. So that's where we are right now. And I would say the only difference between the dinosaurs and us is that we can see the meteor coming.
Yeah.
And we can take action.
Yeah.
Of course, we as humans, we are kind of like resistant to change.
Yes.
Naturally. But we're also conscious of it.
Yes.
So it's our opportunity to miss. But what I can tell you, at least from my own, in my own context, and the spaces that deal with us, which are, a lot of them are at like the national interest level, nation state level, critical infrastructure level, highly regulated spaces, they are quite aware of that. And they are quite afraid of that. Maybe they don't speak about it publicly, but the
nation states.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, you sort of knew it, but like to hear it from someone who's speaking with them is nice. Because again, they'd never say, hey, we're scared shitless of this.
If you look better, they do.
Okay. I like
Maybe they say it through like the CEOs of Google or the CEOs of IBM that also want to sell a product. But, there's various ways to say that. Like, if you look at the strategic plans for most, let's say, tier 1 economies in the world, like for 2030, 2035, 2040, you're going to find quantum there in all of them.
It's true. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why all the quantum stocks have sort of gone parabolic over the last 9 months. right? You had I don't even know how to say it. I keep calling it marijuana.
Smart money knows about it.
Exactly. But the two, you have Google Willow and you have Microsoft. What is it? It's not marijuana. It's how do you pronounce it?
It is not marijuana. No, I don't remember the name, but it starts with an M.
It's like marijuana. Anyways, we'll call it marijuana.
Yes,
but Microsoft marijuana, as those two sort of rolled out in Q4 of last year, all the quantum stocks went parabolic. And 99% of these quantum companies like that are public, it's really just all R&D, right? It's about like, hey, who's going to come out with the tech to actually make it happen? And then there's all those ancillary plays and there's all those network effect plays as well. And
there's a lot of plays that are related to also, gray or black budgets also that are very strategic for countries.
Yeah.
That are in play as well. Nobody really knows how much that is.
Yeah.
But the estimate that I've read is around 500 billion just in China a year.
Wow.
And then EU and US together the same.
Okay. Wow. Okay, we got to take a quick break. Huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. When we get back, we are going to buzz on Naoris Protocol and we're going to talk about the quantum threat to crypto. But what a start to the show from David. Huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet. You can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with David. Okay, before we get into Naoris, talk to me about quantum threat to crypto. Let's not get into the nitty gritty so much, even though people don't understand it. I mean, I barely even understand it because it's way above my pay grade, but let's talk about imminent threats and ways we can move the needle. Legacy Bitcoin addresses, Satoshi's wallet, which has over 1 million Bitcoin, that like if I'm North Korea or China or Russia or insert whatever country is going to do the hacking, I'm going at that. That's number one for me. Like, I feel like that's a no-brainer unless there's something better. Maybe you go at the ETH Foundation, maybe you go at the Solana Foundation. I don't know, but these guys are going to do some bad stuff. We know what's going to happen. And it seems like there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. Number one, what is the most low-hanging fruit? And number two, how the heck do we change it? Can the Bitcoin devs do a fork? What do we need to add a new layer of security? Like, what is the actual process to lock things up again and keep them safe?
Yeah. So you asked a number of questions that please remind me if I forget something. But
you got it.
The cryptographic backbone of all blockchains, and Bitcoin or Ethereum is no different, is extremely weak and defeatable by quantum means. So that means that consensus doesn't matter, validators don't matter, transaction signatures don't matter, nothing matters. So to answer your question about what is the lowest hanging fruit, I would say probably lowest hanging fruit is about what's public. So transactions are signed and they are broadcasted, right? And they are consumed and validated. And that guarantees no double spend. It guarantees a bunch of other things. However, quantum computers can do attacks against hashes, not only cryptography directly. So that
so
means
scary.
that you would be able to, for example, after something has been signed, theoretically, you could change the destination address. You could change the amount. You could change anything. It's already signed. So you don't need to attack the consensus mechanism, which is the backbone defending the space. You can actually attack something a lot weaker, like something that's public. Private keys are private, right? But things that are public are like hashes, right? Because they have already been signed and broadcasted, you could just go ahead and front that and, basically game the system. So that's, we have actually written some research around this. And that's one of the weakest points. But, even before we talk about, using post-quantum cryptography to sign transactions currently on chain while maintaining compatibility with existing cryptographic standards is possible. This would buy time. So that's something that we're doing already. So we have done and signed more than 90 million transactions at post-quantum level already. with
Wow.
full compatibility with existing chains, mainly on EVM compatible environments. But this could work all the way into the Bitcoin lab. But this is relevant to the consensus mechanism. It doesn't require a hard fork, but that buys time. On the other side of things, if you look at what's the lowest hanging fruit, actually, because a quantum computer would allow, or a quantum computer with enough capability, that is a high probability, because we're every step we take is like 100, maybe 200 times bigger than the previous step.
Yeah.
To go in that direction.
Yeah.
By solving some fundamentals, we might be there pretty close. Might be pretty close to it, to the Q day, that is, to some cryptographic standards. If you look at, for example, cryptography backing most chains, we're talking about 32 bytes. That's 256 bits, right? That's not much. It was fine back in 2009, and it was fine even after.
Yeah.
But with quantum computers, this actually decreases the difficulty. Key size matters in things like this as well. So it will shorten the time to break things from a fundamental backbone perspective. Like if you look at, I don't know, your VPN connection or your RSA key, that's like 2048, right? That's 10 times better. But
Wow.
it's just buying some time for a quantum computer to break that also.
Yeah.
And how much is that time? Well, it might be a year. It might be, 3 hours. We don't know.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so fundamental for transactions first to be migrated to post-quantum that don't require, hard forks. And then the whole infrastructure to be migrated post-quantum. Now, if that requires hard forks, that's of course very painful. You would probably have to remake every existing transaction since the first block again until now.
That's a nightmare fuel.
And when you start thinking about like interaction between chains,
that's David. Like that's almost a new chain. It's pretty much a new chain.
No, it's actually pretty much every new chain again, and remaking all previous transactions so that everybody has the same amount that they should have, and blah blah blah, and the same NFTs and whatever. Like it's an impossibility in our reality. So that leads me to answering the second question, which is, what is the lowest hanging fruit? Is it Satoshi Nakamoto's wallet? Is it the Binance core wallet? What is it?
All the above.
Probably they are all low hanging fruit because they're all protected to the same level. Right now, you hack one system, you steal a key maybe, or you find a vulnerability to an endpoint that has a key or something, through a traditional hacking approach, and you'll have access to something. So you have the single point of failure mechanism, existing.
Yeah.
Because everything is centralized. But with blockchains, that's a bit better because, they operate under consensus and all these things. However, all that infrastructure is a collection of single points of failure. So all the validators in all chains are single points of failure. They can be tampered with, they can be hacked, you can do a 51% attack eventually, and nobody would know. Right now, all validators in all chains, and that includes Bitcoin miners, regardless of the consensus mechanism used, they are a collection of single points of failure. So they are themselves centralized. It's centralized infrastructure supporting a decentralized, cryptographic, strong, resilient environment for now. But they are probably going to be vulnerable because of the single point of failure approach, than the chains themselves. So in other words, you wouldn't necessarily need to have the capability to derive a private key from a public key with the quantum computer and access funds, right? If you can actually attack the whole infrastructure one by one, traditionally, right? Or with help from quantum computers. Because if that can allow you to, for example, have access to like admin access to the core, micro operating system that runs on all Bitcoin validators or miners, then you have a hardware attack.
Man, you're scaring me right now. You're scaring me.
So I'm not, what can I say? I could be talking about these for hours. It doesn't.
I know, but you're like, I can literally, like, I can feel my heart rate going up a little. Like I'm
but
a
you
little.
should.
I'm slightly anxious right now.
Okay, I say right now we are slowly moving towards a breach. Like we're slowly moving towards planned obsolescence.
The point of no return is coming.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We do have the tools, and these are basically the same tools that governments are using to, encrypt their communication between, fighter bombers and whatever, right? These are post-quantum cryptographic schemes. We have worked with the IEEE Foundation, for example, which is the biggest engineering group in the world, to produce a paper that allowed us to bring post-quantum cryptography for the first time in production to chains, right? And right now we're running an infrastructure that's run by our community with more than 900,000 nodes that are all pre-validated to be in a trusted state, and that all do post-quantum transactions. And they can support any infrastructure. It's the biggest infrastructure in the world at post-quantum level right now that we're running. And that's something we did kind of for fun, is associated with our testnet and all. But we didn't expect so many people to join. It's clear that this is a fundamental problem for everything. It's not just for blockchains. It's like, the year 2000 bug, but for everything. And for real, not as a Microsoft play. And I have to say, I've been speaking to a number of, of leaders in the Web3 space. And pretty much every week that passes, people are paying maybe double the attention to it compared to the week before. So I'm actually quite positive that existing protocols are looking for a solution that doesn't involve a hard fork in the medium term. Our objective, for example, at Naoris Protocol is to be the security provider for the security part of the blockchain dilemma, right? Where you have security, scalability, and speed. Everybody has been focusing on the speed and scalability, not just because that's the right thing to focus on, but that's because it's a lot easier to focus on that, like from a design perspective and so on. So our objective is for others to keep focusing on this while we can focus on security and integrate with that. Now, the cryptographic approach needs to change, both at the fundamental level, so the backbone of the blockchains that exist right now, right, and the transaction level, and also at the infrastructure level. So I'm talking validators, right, because all that infrastructure, let's just say, if you have any telemetry from this infrastructure, you have no way to prove that that's real. And if there's a computer that's a quantum computer involved in the mix, you will have zero way to prove that that's real, because they can change all those proofs, and whatever you're seeing on your screen is probably not real, right? So we had to create technology we call distributed proof of security that allows you to have what we call post-quantum fingerprints of everything that runs. So for hardware and software and services and everything, and make them all part of the consensus so that you can have proof at post-quantum level that this post-quantum fingerprint of this wallet at this time, that is a single point of failure, because it's a central point. It belongs to you. It doesn't matter if it's MetaMask on your browser or if it's your Trezor, right? Hardware wallet. It's a central point of failure. It's an entry point to something that will make a transaction for you, and it just needs to be tampered locally. Yes, it connects to a blockchain, but that's post-fact. It doesn't matter, right? At that point, it's too late. The blockchain, right now, blockchains, they don't care if all the other validators are malicious. You see the problem here, right? Your objective is to broadcast cryptographic things, and you are going to tell me that what I'm doing is good or bad, but I have no way to prove that if I can trust you. This is a problem. And if you don't secure the fundamental parts of a chain, which means the validators, the RPC nodes, whatever, then you're just inheriting, a disaster waiting to happen. So our approach and our mandate, even from former NATO leaders, was this first, was like, let's make an environment that creates trust over the truth that you're seeing.
This is layer zero,
infrastructure
though.
level.
This is layer 0, isn't it?
It's sub-zero layer. Right? It's the layers that are below the zero, because the zero itself is an infrastructure, right? And how do you know you can trust any of the participants of that infrastructure? You don't.
You need the sub-layer.
So the last frontier is infrastructure itself that needs to be decentralized, right? And there is some pushes with DeepIn and so on, but you still don't know if you can trust any decentralized space, because every point of this decentralized space is a central point of failure to all the other points, right? So that's what our main mandate was to create this consensus mechanism and the way that is very resilient cryptographically, that is, can live into the future, and it's resilient against quantum threats, that can prove to you that the state of a piece of hardware or the state of a piece of software is actually the right state as it's operating, right? And this in IT is called measurability. You want to have the capability to measure something with certainty, so that you can make an informed decision about that. And right now, across the world economy, blockchains, whatever, centralized, decentralized spaces, I don't know, intercontinental ballistic missiles, there is no way to prove that is in a good state, right? So that was our first mandate that we have achieved. And on the back of that, we can then move into other things like, yes, if you can trust the infrastructure, then if I can trust you, then I want to broadcast your message. If I cannot trust you as a validator, then I don't want to broadcast your message.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So that is the backbone change, right? That's the fundamental change that logically needs to exist, or else you're just perpetuating the same problem in a different way. And layer 0 is a good example. It allows for really cool things, but fundamentally, it doesn't solve the problem. Like, you still have that problem. So the only way to decentralize infrastructure is with more infrastructure. And this infrastructure needs to be post-quantum by design and default, because you want it to live into the future, right? If you're minting an NFT with this infrastructure, you want to make sure that it wasn't maliciously minted. You want to make sure that this key was not, duplicated. You want to make sure that even the NFT itself is properly post-quantum signed, so that you can use it in a post-quantum event. So if that NFT proves that you own your house, or that you're the owner of your identity, you don't want the quantum computer to scramble that or throw the whole ecosystem into disarray, right?
Gotcha.
So I hope that made sense.
It does, but David, man, like I've learned so much, and you have most definitely put my mind in a bit of a blender in the best way possible. But above all else, I'm genuinely am scared. I am drinking a relatively strong cold brew right now, so that would obviously get the heart rate ticking a little. But the combination of you spitting fire and talking about quantum with the cold brew, like, my heart's ticking right now. I'm not gonna lie. I don't get nervous often, and I'm a little nervous for the future.
Well, what I would say about that very shortly is that when you have a survivability event like this one, all your instincts, at least me, I'm going to talk about myself as a human.
No, you're right. The instincts are right, though. Like, when your gut tells you something, it's usually for a reason. And my gut is telling me, like, hey, this guy's not lying. He's telling you facts, or at least things that will be facts. And you should be scared and do what you can to quantum proof your assets.
Logic says that, let's say, this is the irony about humanity in general. Like, we are, how can I say, very intelligent and at the same time very dumb.
It's true.
We know that if we eat Cheetos every day and a bunch of burgers, we're going to have cancer.
But we still do it though.
Yeah, exactly. But we do it, right? So I think there is, and I don't mean to get philosophical here, there's definitely kind of like some self-destructive element about us.
Yeah.
But if we are conscious of that, and in this case, it's not something that tastes good or tastes bad. It's just like, we are aware of a survivability event that's going to happen, and it's like, it's inevitable. It's as sure as death in this life, right? Yeah. If you were born, you're going to die, right? Yeah. Cryptography is going to die as we know it.
Yeah.
Quantum is inevitable. It's happening right now. So we either embrace the mitigation of these, 3 to 15% that is right now in the next year. Yeah. And it's going to be 30 to whatever the next, and so on.
David, super tight for time here. You've been on an absolute roll, but again, we are tight for time.
I'm so sorry, I got passionate.
No worries, all good. Give us the elevator pitch on Naoris and what exactly you guys are doing and how people can get involved.
So Naoris Protocol is a post-quantum infrastructure project. DeepIn is part of it, but this applies to any infrastructure. So Web2, Web3, it decentralizes infrastructure. As I mentioned, everything in the world is a single point of failure to everything it is connected to. And it does that backed by post-quantum validations. So it proves state for everything, everywhere, in any sort of like digital operation, right? It could be hardware, it could be software, it could be a centralized system that becomes decentralized in any proof that you want to have over it. Could be an AI environment, could be a group of agents, it doesn't matter, right? So Naoris Protocol right now, we are in our public sale. We have already raised a nice amount. We're looking to close that sometime soon. Feel free to join. You can go to naorisprotocol.com or naoris.com and find everything about us. There is a lot of information about us online. We have published a number of peer-reviewed papers with universities and very big organizations. We have people in the company that help create the internet as we know it, that are former presidents of Microsoft, IBM, and others. So yeah, feel free to join and stay safe, stay sovereign, and stay quantum, and I'll talk to you next time.
I love that. Stay safe, stay sovereign, and stay quantum. Folks, what an episode with David Carvalho, founder of Naoris Protocol. One of the episodes where I spoke the least, without a doubt, and for good reason. He was literally on fire, spitting fire for 40 minutes straight. And guys, like I'm my heart rate is genuinely up right now. The good anxiety, not the bad anxiety. I have some good anxiety, and let this be a lesson for all of us, guys. Get our ducks in a row. Do what you can to at least safeguard your own assets here, and do follow along with everything David and Naoris are doing. Huge shout out to David and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking of the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And back to the listeners, keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.